Simone Saylor, Veronica Johnson, Daniel Tillman, and Denise Sanders. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Lassos and then Ms. Binder.
Good evening, trustees, and thank you for your time. My comments are coming from a place of having worked with the district for 20 years in Swamp Ruffles and its Superintendent Opportunities Committee, and also having lobbied for Zoom schools, victory schools at the legislature, also being one of the key people in CCSD that moved us to having an ELL policy. So that's my perspective. I personally know John Anzalone, Joan Ebert, and Jesse Walsh. I know them. I know for the least amount of time Anzalone, I've known Joan probably close to 15 years. And going back to my prior comments, the most relevant part of hiring, I believe, is knowing what that person has done in the past, what they have achieved, as opposed to that. Some of these guys did beautiful interviews. I mean, Schuldiner, I just loved him. He's so outgoing, energetic. He's the kind of guy I would just love immediately. But I'm trying to take that bias out of the way, just talk about what do we know about these people. Are you with me? All right, so your criteria, budget, you're absolutely right. Anzalone has handled the high school budget and a 7,000 district. And our budget is like, you know, a Godzilla pickle, like the Lombardo Pope. I'm sorry, no. Ebert definitely can be a person that can handle our budget. Impressed with Schuldiner and the way he picked up on our budget. Really, really great. On Jesse, I just don't know what his background is on budget. On data-driven decision-making, I can tell you Jesse is that kind of guy, and so is Joni. Schuldiner seems to be that way. Anzalone, my experience with him was for Restorative Justice Committee, and it was really hard to get data out of him. It was, I felt when I was on that committee, a year that it was a total waste of my time because we never got data. We just got being shuffled back and forth. So that's one reason that is when you kind of move towards those finalists, I would tell you your strongest finalist right now is definitely Ebert. Your weakest finalist is Anzalone, and I would just hatch him out. Again, I'm talking about my experience with him. Love Schuldiner's energy. I love Jesse's data-driven mentality. So if you're going to go with finalists, I would definitely say Ebert, probably Welch, maybe Schuldiner if you're, you know, not anti-Spartan, and eliminate Anzalone from the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Binder, and then David Goldman.
Madam President, members of the board, and a binder for the record. So I guess echoing and dittoing probably everything that you guys have been hearing for almost the past year, some of you, as you were campaigning, as you've been sitting here. I think I kind of said I was only going to try to point out things that I think you guys should know about people instead of focusing on, like, because, you know, just like you guys, I'm getting asked 100 times over, like, who, you know, who's your pick, who's your pick? Again, and as I said the other night, this is your guys' legacy, nobody else's. So no matter who's calling you, like, who's talking, right? Like, you can hear the echo chambers of points with everything and everybody. But at the end of the day, when the media continues to be here in the room and we're trying to move forward and I'm trying to finish raising my kids and you guys are trying to like do things with your careers, they're gonna look, everyone's gonna look back at these very pivotal and key moments in your political career and the decisions and how you came about making them, you know, whatnot. And so as important it is to hear and take everything in, only you guys are trusted with making this decision. And it's hard. It's going to be hard because there's going to be times in the next couple of weeks that it's going to seem like no matter what you do tonight, what you do in 2 weeks, none of it's going to matter because somebody's going to be pissed off somewhere. You're not going to make everyone happy, right? So I'm going to lift you guys up as I have been in my own heart and mind, knowing that you're going to do what you think is the best for all of us. I just really hope that that decision is somewhere where I can spend the next 4 to 6 years not showing up to these board meetings that have to like talk and hold things accountable. Like, I would like to message someone back and go, no, actually, I'm not going to go tonight because things are going so wonderfully well. I'm just going to sit at home and enjoy my family and watch, right? I think that's what we'd all like, right? Like, I'm an SOT chair, right? So that's another hat I wear. I want to, in a couple of weeks, walk onto my elementary school campus and have everyone on my campus celebrating that we have like this new fresh life in our community and that they're hopeful. When Legends bus driver dropped them off today on time, for the record, like she was excited. The bus yard was talking about last night's meeting and the potential of what you guys are going to do here tonight. So let's keep that momentum going because we all need it. You guys need it and the community needs it. Educators need it, kids need it, staff needs it. Let's do it.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez, and then after Mr. Gomez, Mr. Frazee.
David Gomez, for the record, Nevada Peace Alliance president, former president of Wake Up, former deputy director of education for LULAC, and a bunch of other titles. I always agree to disagree on so many different levels, but I've had my spits and spats with people at times, but I'm going to tell you right now, I agree with the Lazos, and, this is one of those, yes, it is. It's one of those things where, we have to hit the ground running. Now, also, you got to make sure that the person that we pick, it's your vision. It's the vision of the school district. It's the vision of the parents. It's the vision of everyone that's in this community. Joan has controlled a very large, massive machine. And there's a lot of moving parts to it. Joan Ebert, I do see as one of your top candidates because she knows the ins and outs of what we're doing. And I'm going to explain something to you about being a boss of one of the largest carpet retailers in the United States when I was, Carpeteria. And it was a hard job. It was very difficult. Handling $300 million every 6 months with budgets and everything like that. It was very difficult, especially for a young kid that was being taught how to do all these things. And sometimes I had to fire people. Sometimes I had to be that bad guy. Sometimes I had to be that person that people were willing to point the finger at because they weren't doing their job. They weren't for the right visions and goals that we had in our business. And I do it today, as of today. I still do it. I let people go. And they go and they talk crap behind my back and call me every name under the book and under the sun. But that's okay. You know why? Because I'm looking out for the continuity of those who work for me and those who are with me and the visions that we see in order for us to strive and thrive. As far as Jesse, I mean, I really don't know. I don't know Mr. Schodener. He's a very small district compared to what he's asking to be placed into. I do have a lot of questions about his contents of character because you can make a turd shiny as gold as you want, but sometimes it's always going to stink at the end of the day. But when you're looking at something, you got to remember that Dr. Angelo, I did mention some things about what was going on at the school that he was actually in charge of. And I did have a conversation with him, and he did clarify some things with me. But I'm not going to say, yes, go with Dr. Anzalone as well. My pick, and so is Lebasky, and so is a lot of the ministers of the Black community, is Joan Ebert. And if you want to get into debates and disputes with them, then you do need this person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frazee, and then Ms. Erica.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, distinguished trustees. For the record, my name is Jim Frazee. I'm a high school teacher here in Clark County. I had no intention of coming tonight and speaking, but I heard some things the last couple of days and then today that made me get in my car and come down. And I want to clear some things up. A couple of years ago, John Anzalone asked me if I would give him a reference for how he works with teachers and the unions in his new job application for school district in Washington State. And I said, sure, because he's a nice guy and he's very charming and I believed in him. And so they called and I gave him a rave review and he went off and got the job. And 2 years later, he brought that community together. They came together and struck for the first time in the history of the school district. And instead of reaching out for people, he took them to court twice. Now, nowhere in our conversation did he ever reach out to me and try to explain that. You need to be serious and sober in your deliberations. Our children demand that because they desperately need it. If you make the wrong decision, it's going to be 4 years before we can get rid of this person and move on. And a high school teacher, 4 years is a generation that we cannot afford to lose. You need a workhorse, not a show horse. You can't afford to get snowed. You are the largest employer in Nevada. You have the second largest bus system in Nevada. You're the third largest food provider, including casinos in Nevada. I could fit the entire population of the Kansas School District in 2 high schools. You have to be serious. We cannot afford this kind of stuff. So you're reaching a moment in history, and I don't even think you realize it. Right now, because of our last failed superintendent, there is a drive to break up this district. Not because it's the best thing to do, but it's because they are so sick of what's happened. When you have a 29% approval rating from administrators and staff who said they're proud to work for this district, it's disgraceful. Last session, when Dr. Jara and Brenda Larson Mitchell went up to Carson City and explained what was going on here, it was a disaster of biblical proportions. The leader of the Democrats said, you have failed my children. The leader of the Republicans, Mr. O'Neill, said, thank God that my children never went to Clark County. You cannot afford to send a Jesus Jara clone or protege back up there. I say that because I found out today that Jesus Jara, our failed superintendent, is lobbying for John Anzalone to take his place. We cannot afford any more of that. We have to have a clean break from that past, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Miss Erica? Is there anybody that would like to make public comment? On this one? Okay. And Abraham, I need you to fill out oh, he did? Thank you so much. Go ahead, Miss Erica.
Good evening, President Bustamante and trustees of the board. My name is Erica Nengray, and I am a proud parent of 5 CCSD students, 2 who have graduated with the most recent intending UNLV. I am also an employee support professional dedicated to ensuring I perform my job effectively for students and staff alike. As you take on the critical responsibility of selecting the next leader of the 5th largest school district in the nation, I urge you to choose a superintendent who is more than just a qualified candidate on paper. We need a leader who truly understands our diverse community, values our voices of all stakeholders, and is committed to a long-term success, not just someone here for a title, paycheck, or driven by personal interest. I have seen firsthand the impact that strong leadership or lack of it can have on our schools. One of my children is a special education student, struggled in class, but it wasn't a test score or a district policy that made the difference. It was a teacher who felt supported enough to go the extra mile. That teacher, Ms. Will, along with dedicated support staff professionals, Ms. Castro, took the time to ensure my child succeeded. This kind of dedication can only thrive when leadership values are respected, the people who make our schools work every day. Our children deserve a superintendent who will advocate for their future, listen to the concerns of the families, and build strong partnerships with educators and staff. We need a leader who sees beyond test scores and funding reports, someone who focuses on the well-being, academic growth, and overall success of every student in our district, including those with special needs. Equally important, this person must respect and uplift every employee who keeps our schools running from administrators and teachers to the employee support professionals who work tirelessly behind the scenes. We need a superintendent who not only recognizes our district's challenges, but is also willing to collaborate with those who know the solutions firsthand. I want to acknowledge the candidates who stepped forward to this role. I appreciate that their interest and the commitment they have shown to our district. However, two candidates in particular stood out to me, one from today and one from yesterday. They not only recognized our faults, but also had real solutions. They demonstrated a true understanding of our district's challenges and showed willingness to take action. That is the kind of leadership we need moving forward. But no one leader can succeed alone. The direction of our district depends on the collective efforts of this board. Trustees must work together, setting aside personal interest. And I'll repeat that, setting aside personal interest and putting the needs of our students and staff beyond any individual agenda. It is not about what benefits one person or group, but what benefits our entire community. Without clear shared goals, even the most capable superintendent will struggle to bring meaningful change. This decision is not just about filling a position, it's about shaping the future of our students.
Thank you, Miss Erica. I appreciate you. Thank you, Miss Erica. Chris Giuliani, and then Abraham will end with you.
Thank you, Christian Giuliani. The next superintendent is not here to be liked or to be someone's friend. People too often confuse friendliness with friendship. That's another key piece that's not supposed to be here at play. And I have not seen many of you, so I commend you for being as thoughtful as you have been so far. Whoever you select, 1, 2, 3, 4, I do think you need to bring at least a couple to the community so that they can weigh in on what's happening. But I think you need to select one who cares, who's not afraid to lead, who listens, who collaborates, isn't afraid to have some people part ways with CCSD, who's not afraid to review the policies and recommend undoing them, such as the grading scale. Someone who will challenge the culture of mistrust, retaliation, and dysfunction that's been going on in this district. One who is data-driven to focus CCSD on kids and programs and be able to actually implement that data. One who respects the funding contributions that's made and spends it wisely with your input. One who thinks out of the box to make sure that all kids are successful. One who will bring back respect of its employees, students, parents, and community. One who actually sees us. I think you have two I would recommend to select, and that's Ebert and Welsh. I think they would bring the community at least a discussion of diversity to some extent because of their different skill sets that they bring. Both are data-driven people, but I'm not sure necessarily which ones. I think I know who it is, but it's your decision on that part of it, not mine, thankfully. But I do think that they would be good to present to the public for discussion and to see what those skill set differences might be, and then how they can to implement them. So good luck with your job. I think you've done a good job of culling the herd to some extent, but I do think all 4 individuals that you've interviewed were the right selections for you. I think it sent a tone for the district. I do know that Dr. Hara is busy calling principals as well as I heard trustees, not for Mr. Anzalone, I did not hear that, but against Joan Ebert. And I think that's just, well, it goes back to the questions of retaliation in the long run. So thank you very much and good luck with your decision.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham.
Thank you. Abraham Clement for the record. I've been part of the hiring group with the SOT team when I hired 3 different principals at Rancho High School. And one of the things that I was very persistent was to bring all the candidates that were applying for Rancho High School's principal to a town hall meeting at Rancho. And no SOT team has ever did that before. And I kept on pushing it until we were able to have that meeting at the cafeteria. And we actually had over 100 parents and students show up and gave us their input so that we can actually come up with the criteria that we needed to select the right principal at Rancho High School. And that selection ended up being Dr. Smith at Rancho. The reason why I say that is I feel that I know this is a long process. And when we were doing this hiring process for a principal at Rancho, I understand we need a higher principal and there's a process to move forward. But I also felt that we needed that community input from parents, the students, and staff. After we got that input, we were able to make a better decision as a SOT. And I think that's important. With that being said, I would like to suggest maybe 3 candidates to move forward for tonight or 2. But most importantly, to make sure that whoever gets chosen, that goes forward and able to engage with our community. Because as a parent, as a wrestling coach, as a volunteer wrestling coach, as a product of the school district, and I've served in many capacities as a substitute teacher, I can't be the only one for my community. I feel like I'm the only voice here from the east side and from North Las Vegas. And so I believe that we need to have advertise this correctly, so these candidates that move forward, that we actually listen to them and get their opinion, or let the public, let the parents hear. But they all 4 candidates presented themselves very well and they all know about the budget and about the issues. But I wouldn't want to be in your guys' shoes. It's a tough decision. We have great candidates right now, but it's okay to maybe slow it down or maybe make a motion to invite all the candidates, 3 or 2, so that way the people can voice their opinion as well.
Thank you so much. Okay, we are going to now go to, after public comment, to our vote. Like I said, on behalf of the team, we'd like to thank HYA to staying with us in this process and being patient and diligent to make sure that the process was fair. Thank you to all the candidates that have presented, the 2 yesterday and the 2 today. We appreciated your presentation. Now we're going to be voting as a team on who goes on to the second round of interviews and who we want the community to meet. Like we shared, you will have an opportunity, the community, to weigh in on meeting the candidates and asking them questions like we outlined before. So at this time, I'm going to make a motion. The candidates, they vote whether to move this envelope to move forward in the second round. Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. I will second that motion.
All right, please cast your votes, trustees. Okay, that 1 yes on 0 abstain and 6 no. The next motion that I would like to make is to move candidate 2, Dr. Welsh, to the second round and meet our community. Trustee Zamora.
I would like to second that motion.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Trustees, please cast your vote. That passes 7. That passes 7 yeses. Next, I would like to motion for candidate 3, Mr. Schuldiner to go to the second round of interviews and meet our community.
Madam President, I would like to second that motion.
You have a first and a second. Trustees, please cast your votes. That's 6 yeses. Moves forward. Candidate number 4, Mrs. Ebert, to go to the second round of interviews and meet our community. Do I have a second?
Madam President, I would like to second that motion.
I have a first and a second. Members, please cast your votes. That moves forward 7-0. So there you have the candidates. Thank you so much for a very efficient and fair process. We have one more action item to vote on, 2.03, our governance professional learning. I'd like to invite our board liaison to come forward, be able to answer any questions. This is the opportunity for our candidate to get with our balanced governance consultant to provide training to the superintendent search finalist. Mr. Caruso.
Madam President, good evening. Take a look, trustees, since 1.03, Dr. Albright provided the superintendent search system proposal. So on the second page, the coaching and consultation deliverables, Dr. Albright will provide a 1 hour virtual one-on-one training session with all designated superintendent candidate finalists, balanced governance model. Dr. Ellsbury will coordinate with the hired superintendent search firm. Dr. Perez will be the point person. We'll organize and schedule the one-on-one virtual training sessions. Session training shall be confidential. No information from the training session, nor any feedback, recommendation, or endorsement regarding any of the superintendent candidates or their selection shall be provided by Dr. Ellsbury's training person. So the deliverable for this is the 1 hour one-on-one training session. Again, with all designated candidates, based on the vote, so 3 candidates, and finalists will be trained on the balanced governance model. Cost is $500 per candidate. As a reminder, you previously approved that $60,000 cap back in January, so this would be applied. This would be deducted from that amount. So,
Thank you. Now we're opening up for discussion. Any questions? Trustee, as far as the trafficking, do you have a question, or would you like to make a motion? Okay, any, all right, trustee, as far as the trafficking.
So I would just like to say we had an amazing meeting with Dr. Very so, and at this time I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposed governance training for our finalists with Dr. Alsbury at the cost of $500 per candidate.
Thank you. Yes. Do I have a second? Is that trustee Barron?
Yes, no, I just wanted just to make it clear to the public. The finalists that we have picked have committed to not only taking the balanced government training, but to run our district and work with our board in the governance in the balanced governance model, which I believe. I think that was very wise for my colleagues to establish, and I wholeheartedly want to second my colleagues' motions.
Thank you. I still need public comment on this, so don't forget that. But is there any questions or any discussion? Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I had a question. If we had already made the purchase for this service, that was already picked up.
I'm going to ask our board liaison to come back.
Trustee Dominguez, remember the discussion in January was to approve $60,000 for applicants of the package, and then you approved the 2-day training for the board to receive. But the deliverables had to come back. So this, in essence, is the person or one of the deliverables that would have to come back. So that at the future board meeting, bring a package from Dr. Alsbury of the various other deliverables for to consider and make a decision. But the $60,000 was allocated, and it's just
So this isn't an approval for this. It's already been.
This has not been decided because the board did not decide on the deliverables. So the deliverables, if you remember in January, there was a rather lengthy list of options. The board said that yes, we want to contract with Dr. Alsbury, but at that time, the board did not say these are ABC I want from the list. So that's why we have to bring it back as a proposal.
And so today we will be approving for this. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bill for the 3 candidates, sorry.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that clarity. Is there any public comment? Okay, seeing none, then we have a main motion and a second. Please cast your votes. That passes 7-0. We're gonna move to item 3.0. The next meeting of the Board of Trustees is Thursday, February 27th at 5 p.m. here in the boardroom. We're going to our last public comment, 4.01. Dr. Beagle. Sorry, Dr. Beagle, please proceed.
Good evening, Tiffany Beagle for the record. I wanted to come back in and talk a little bit about grade reform and what's going on in our classrooms after like I prefaced earlier, yesterday I had the opportunity to go up to UNR and speak with the committee that is in charge of dual enrollment and just all the great things that are happening with UNR as our partner with NSHE at a couple of the high schools down here in Southern Nevada. And they do some really great agendas with regard to making sure that our students are on the right track. But they specifically put out a detailed kind of sheet that said these are the things that our professors are kind of dealing with that are directly a result of what's happening in Clark County. And the first thing on the sheet was like no extended time for deadlines, no 50% minimum F, no, getting your mom to call in and say, my child is special, so give them special regard. There's a lot of things that are going on down here that we're doing that are a disservice to our students. And we definitely need to recognize that whatever's happening needs to be fixed. I don't know how to fix it anymore. I'm kind of at a loss because my boss is texting me right now. I'm sorry. I'm kind of at a loss because after hearing all of that and then hearing what they're doing in the other counties with their dual enrollment programs, it seems like it would be very easy to kind of mimic what's in other areas. That kind of sentiment. There was also a comment made that we have a lot of participation, but not a lot of follow through. Where you present all these amazing reports about presentation, but there's never any real data on what's happening with that. In answer to that, I did get information that we're adding a new math class because kids are doing so horribly in Algebra 1 and geometry in middle school that they have to add a new math class as a bridge between geometry and Algebra 2. So there's a lot of stuff that's being done. There's a lot of mistakes that have been made. The kids are the ones paying for it. We are the grown-ups. We're the ones who are supposed to be taking care of the kids. We have to fix it. Whoever you decide to put in charge of that, I think you guys made a mistake tonight, but that's not my decision either. And like I said last time I was here, I don't want to be in your shoes. You have to look at the track record. Nevada has not moved the needle in 5 years. We have been bottom 20% for 5 years, and nothing has changed here. We need something different. So please consider that as you're looking at these candidates. Nevada as a state, do we really want Clark County to be stuck in that rut for 4 more years? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Binder. And then we have Mr. Gomez and then Mr. Frazee.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And
Be talking about me right now. So just for the record, I'm not just a failed CCSD trustee. I am a parent who shows up. I fought to help get schools reopened. I fought to get your kids their sports and activities back. And guess what? All these years later, I still sit here and I fight for you. So whatever stuff you got going on your keyboard warrior stuff tonight, if you really want to know who I am, you really aren't paying attention to your community. I stayed through this process, I think, very neutral with you guys. I did not give you despite, again, no matter who asked me, I did not say who my pick was. I also had just pulled Mr. Frazee out, or stalked him out, because around 6:30 tonight, I prepared public comment about JARA and what I know is going on in the community. Standing parent who shows up to these meetings to hold JARA accountable all those years that I didn't get paid for. I didn't think it was fair for me to be the one to deliver that message to you. And it just so happened that Mr. Frazee did. But I'm going to read to you quickly in part some of what I had prepared. And I was trying to be very professional about it because Jar's listening. You know how I know Jar's listening? Because he texted David after I made the comment about the schools and him being selective. And he said, tell Anna Binder I visited all the schools. So Jara, here's one for you. We're glad you're gone. But I just really wanted to say that I was concerned about Jara having any role in picking the next superintendent. A lot of us in the community feel like his time here was full of issues, hurt students, teachers, and the overall direction of our schools. The process needed to be transparent and focused on what was best for students, not influenced by make it really hard for the community to trust that this is a fair and honest search. I'm also worried that his influence doesn't stop with it could reach into the broader community of stakeholders. And if that happens, parents, teachers, and community members might get pushed aside in favor of keeping things the same instead of bringing real change. We do need a fresh start. We need leadership that isn't tied to the same old problems, and so on, okay? So that's what I had prepared to say, 2.01, section 3. And I'm not being funny. And I love you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. And I believe you're our last person.
David Gomez, for the record, Nevada Peace Alliance president. It's hard to hear noise and hear God at the same time sometimes, because when you're listening, you got to hear what you have to hear. You got to say what you have to say. I know a lot of people don't respect me, and that's okay, because if I'm liked by everybody, then I'm doing something wrong. Serious. If everybody likes me, I am terrible. And I respect the fact that people don't like me. But this room, before it looked like this, many, many, many years, I was the only brown face standing up. And then people would show up from the Black community and the Latino community, and they would come to agendas. And I was here every single meeting with 4 staff. When I fought to get Charles I. West Prep built with Marcette Lewis and all the other people that were behind me, I stayed adamant. When I helped Mike Barton make customer service policies, I stayed adamant. When I hand Dr. Scavella 2 anti-racial policies written out by me, and 2.5 days I did it, completed it, said chop it up and do what you want with it. It was by me. When I stand with support staff from the bus yards or even schools without asking for no money, it is me. But why do I do this? Because I know what it's like to be the person that no one stands up. I know what it's like to be that person that everybody kicks. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to look at a refrigerator and look at some of those things and say, you know what? All I have is water and sugar during that period of time. To take a needle out of my mother. People don't believe exists sometimes, or they want to overlook. I know what it's like to have a Black mother that's been left with a child that's multiracial. But at the end of the day, I'm going to keep coming. I'm going to do what Anna does. And I am from East Las Vegas, because my zip code is 89101. And I ran for councilman, and my son ran for commission in his area. And I'm going to keep pushing my kids into these positions. Why? Because we need better people. If you guys don't want to do this job, please don't get up here. Don't pick someone that's going to hurt us or hurt our children, just because we just want to make other people feel good. Forget these unions, forget everything else. I'm standing here as a person who represents God and you too when you do need me. And I will be there, regardless of how we have differences. I will be there because God tells me to stand.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. That ends our public comment on items not listed as action items on the agenda. Therefore, I will entertain a motion